All right, so the first type of angles we are going to look at is going to be alternate interior angles. Now, these two parallel lines are going to be your boundaries for alternate interior, and interior means inside. So we are looking inside of the sets of parallel lines. That is step one, is it must be inside these two lines to be considered interior. Now, step two is going to be that they're alternate. Now, alternate is going to mean that they're on opposite sides of something. The only thing that we're looking at that's in between these that it could be on alternate sides of is our line that's crossing between the two parallel lines. So, for example, if I look at this angle here, alternate interior will be across that line, but it's got to be also down, so across and over. Now, if we look at these two angles, they're the same. If you look here, it's an obtuse angle, it's an obtuse angle. They're going to have the same measure. The other two alternate interior angles that you have are going to be here and here. Now, these again are on opposite sides of our line that intersects, and they are the same size. They're both acute angles. They're going to have the same measures. They have to be on opposite sides of your intersecting line, and they must be within the parallel lines in order to be alternate interior. The next kind are going to be alternate exterior. Now, these are also going to have a boundary of your sets of parallel lines, except for now it's on the outside because it's the exterior, so on the outer bounds. So we've got two angles listed here on the outside, two angles here on the outside, and again, it's still going to be on the opposite sides of our intersecting line. So our first angle is going to be this one, crossing over the intersecting line and down. These two are going to be alternate exterior. They're on the outside and they're on opposite sides. They have the same measure. They are both going to be obtuse angles. And just like with alternate interior, we also have two acute angles that are considered alternate exterior angles that will have the same measure. Opposite sides of the intersecting line, same measure. Now, the next type of angle that we have are going to be corresponding. Now, these don't have a limit as in terms of it must be within this place or it must be outside of this place. But what corresponding is going to associate with is location being the same. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at where this intersecting line crosses our parallel line number 1 and where it crosses parallel line number 2. So when we look here, this angle is formed within parallel line intersecting line. So this angle here corresponds. It's in the same location as when this parallel line is intersected by this line as this. Corresponding angles are also going to have the same measure as well. Another set of corresponding angles using the same location is going to be to the right of our first angle we looked at, and then same location but on our lower line here. The circle corresponds with the circle, the star corresponds with the star. They have the same measure. Now we also have two more sets of corresponding angles in this diagram. The first one is if we go on the underside of our parallel line and our intersecting line, we can also find the same location on our second parallel line here. So when we look at our two horizontal lines versus our intersecting, these are going to be in the same location. They're going to have the same value. The last place for a corresponding angle is going to be here and here. These two angles, again, are in the same location. If we look at our horizontal line with the intersecting line going through it, horizontal line, intersecting line going through it, these are in the same location and they will have the same measure. Our final angle to look at are going to be consecutive angles, and consecutive essentially means side by side. Now, this is going to be the one angle that is going to be different than the types of angles that we have talked about so far, because these are not going to be equal angles. Instead, we refer to these as supplementary angles because angle 1 plus angle 2 would equal 180 degrees together. So our first set, and there are several sets of consecutive angles within this one diagram. So our first set of consecutive angles would be if I looked at this angle here and this angle here. Now when we look, these two angles side by side, they create a straight line, which is what a 180 degree angle is. So we know that these two are consecutive, they're side by side, and it's going to equal a 180 degree angle in this picture. The second set is going to be using our same angle that we started with, however, going to the right. When you put these two angles side by side, they are going to equal 180 degrees as well because they form this straight line here. If we continue moving through the same two intersecting lines, we can turn our page and we can look from this angle and find two more sets. We can use this angle here and this angle here. These two angles together form a straight line, so these two are considered consecutive angles. And finally, we can use this angle here and this angle here. These two side by side connect to make another 180 degree angle. So these are also considered consecutive angles. So if we use our color coding system, the two angles that have the same color would be considered consecutive angles, and we can apply this to the second set of intersecting lines down here. So if we look at this angle and this angle are consecutive, just as this angle and this angle are consecutive. These two are also consecutive, and finally this one and this one. So if we use a color coding system, it helps us see that they are side by side and together form a 180 degree angle.